Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Philadelphia. I'm Nick Miller alongside Esper Professor Shaheen Soorani.
Great to be here.
It's going to stick. We're pushing it.
Oh, it already has. It's replaced my expensive sorcery master that was labeled to me. Because the best part about it, that's actually a compliment, the Esper Professor. The expensive sorcery master was more of an insult.
Yeah.
So I'd prefer to kind of
Push
phase
that
that
one
one out.
aside.
Yeah, that's old. That's
Taking
old.
the new.
Now, I don't like sorceries. Right, I like sorceries.
Who we kidding?
Who we kidding?
Playing Esper if you haven't figured out yet.
Oh, yeah.
But, showed off a little bit the Grand Prix last weekend. You've been touting the Esper control for a while, as you tend to do. And we have a new build of Esper control. So take us through what you're doing here and why this is where you want to be.
Sure. It's great now. It's one of those things where you wade through enough formats, eventually you're going to get to a place where this color combination has it all, and it does. Luckily for us, Jace Vryn's Prodigy is in this format, and it's not like the old format where you had Bob Light and main deck early removal that was very good against you. Now we're looking at Silk Wrap or Bust. People are still kind of staying away from Ultimate Price because of how weak it is, and if you're not Silk Wrapping, or you're not playing against Abzan with Dramoka's Command and a creature, then your Jace is sticking, and then it's a nightmare for them. So I guess the new iteration of Esper, the new Esper of today, is a Jace Vryn's Prodigy Esper deck. And you have to center it around that. It's a 4 of. You always want on turn 2. My initial list before the set came out, it was a 3 of. And Ben Rubin is a good friend of mine. We go way back. We roomed at Worlds when I did okay back in the day. And he told me that the Channel Fireball guys are, all right, we have an Esper deck. Shaheen's Esper deck. We're going to look at the Star City version. And he's like, I couldn't get them to take it seriously because there's 3 Jaces in there. So I came around, 4 Jaces in there. I just hate having multiple, but you know what? They do pitch to each other.
Yeah.
There's no negative to having multiple, but if you've seen my list before, and you have seen it before, I'm really picky about my 4
Yeah,
ofs.
you hedge on your 4 ofs and in particular Planeswalkers, but Jace is so good, it has to be killed immediately, in which case you want another one anyway.
Yes.
Pitches it to itself.
Yep.
It's all you want to be.
Yeah, so there's just no negative, like you said. There's just might as well just play 4, so I got over it. And after that, this has been pretty much the starter for Esper players. If you look at Reed's list, you look at Chapin's, I'm sure they did theirs on their own, but you can see glaring similarities. And I always kind of put mine out there first just to plant the flag down.
Yeah.
This is the Esper deck of the future, and it's been very good. And I've even seen Andrew Cuneo play 2 Narsets in his most recent build. So a lot of similarities, but it's the Jace show now.
Yeah, you get your flag. Shaheen's here.
Yes.
Letting you know what's
Me
going
first.
on. We've got all of the Planeswalkers you can play.
Yep.
So if you got, Narset, Obnixilis, Gideon, along with Jace, of course.
Yep.
Where is Narset really, where the best at? She's been kind of on the fringes here and there, but looks pretty good in this build.
Yeah, it's great now. It's Mono Red has just lost its teeth with the burn that it doesn't have anymore. Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flames has really put a nail in their coffin against this matchup. Game 1, you're still weak against them, so you don't never want Narset against Red. But after the board, you have so many Ration Clerics and other chess commands you can bounce back. So you want Narset against green decks. You want it against decks that can only play 1 creature per turn. And that way you can either play it on an empty board, ideal, dream heaven scenario,
right,
or even on a 1 creature board where you're able to untap and then rebound Languishes and Utter Ends or what have you. So Narset's great against decks with green. It's not bad against the Jeskai control deck because they don't have a whole lot of creatures. They play a couple Tassigurs, they play a Mantis Rider, which they think is just, the bee's knees of a creature. And I get into so many discussions about it, how it puts a clock on you, but they don't really have that finishing power that old Jeskai decks had. They don't play a lot of burn, if any. They just play a lot of recursion with Culligan's Command and Oshai's Command, which are pretty good against you, but they don't have that. So I like Narset against that. It gets grindy. The matchup's super grindy, and again, it's just one of those where they have to deal with it quickly, because if you ultimate it against 9 out of 10 combo decks around here, they're toast. So Narset, great. Card advantage, rebounding, and there aren't any decks out there anymore that play multiple creatures a turn or multiple threats. There's no more Elvish Mystic, so you really have time to develop your board state.
Yeah, that's interesting because her, ultimate is very good in a format where we are right now, where everyone is playing a bunch of non-creature spells. Other than probably like the green-white Megamorph deck, you look at something like Jeskai Black, there's so many non-creature spells. Winning is going to be very difficult with a 2/2 and a 1/1.
Oh yeah, for sure. And even the green-white deck. So since you said there's not many spells, which you're absolutely right, it's time to go the other way, and you're just like rebound language, rebound this card, and you're just like utter end, destroy your stuff, and it's just so good. It just has such great synergy with Jace. You're either flashing back stuff from the graveyard, or you're using your hand to cast it twice, and if you get the two going, it's just this beautiful melody of control that's hard to beat. So
just puts a smile on your face.
Oh yeah. I take my time when winning with these two cards out, to be honest. If we're at game 3, I'm not playing slow or anything, but I'm making sure that every corner is covered, and I'm not going to fall behind. And I do it with a smile on my face.
Well, that's interesting because one thing we've noticed here in the format, especially with all the decks playing a bunch of fetch lands now, time is an issue. These control decks, these Esper decks, especially, you see something like Chapin played at the Grand Prix, or even the Reed played at the Pro Tour. Yep. Time is an issue. Yep. How are you managing with this deck? How are you winning in time?
I'm not gonna lie. It's tough. This is the hardest to finish control format that I've ever seen. Even giving Legacy a run for their money. There's just too much shuffling. You can't kill them quickly because there's no great win condition. I mean, you have Pearl Lake Ancient, you can't play that card. You don't have Aetherling. You don't have Decree of Justice effects that are good. We tried the Secure the Waste, not very good. Most control decks have abandoned it now. It's just, you have to take your time and you have to 1-for-1 them, and then the cards are so powerful, like you said, it's hard to finish. My suggestion to finish is by playing my version with lots of Ruinous Paths and Scatter to the Winds, and you really just have to just hammer their creature, put 4 counters on your Shambling Vent, and then you have a little Baneslayer Angel for yourself. Right. And you really have to just start, you save your removal until you can do that. In the Jeskai matchup, it happens so often because it can't kill you. Just like tap 7, do it. They're like Crackling Doom. Tap 6, counter, put a 3 counters on my guy, and you're able to finish games out with Awaken. Without Awaken, you better be lightning fast in order to get through the rounds, so definitely use Awaken to your advantage.
All right, and those Awaken spells you've got, of course, Ruinous Path and Scatter to the Winds here.
Yep.
So you have your counter spells and your, destroy target creature or planeswalker that can also give you a threat later on. You've got, what we've seen is just kind of the breakout card in all these Jeskai and Esper decks. It's just Ojutai's Command in conjunction with Jace is just too good to pass up.
Yeah, I can't even brag about that. My first version had 4 Ojutai's Command and Jace. I mean, it's just one of those things that it's just peanut butter and jelly. They go together real well. You just can't avoid it. And that allowed me to actually include Fathom Feeder into the mix, which is also fantastic with Ojutai's Command. It turns into a counterspell, removal spell by blocking in mid-combat. Gain 4, draw a card, kill your guy. I mean, you can do so many things with it. Feldar Cub, another one with Ojutai's Command. There's just so many utility control 2-drops that you have to play 4 within the main and the side. And I see a lot of Jeskai decks playing 2 or 3, and I think if you really want to win the grind at the end of the day, is an easy must-have 4 of.
Yeah, there's so many good enchantments. Feldar Cub earns a spot in almost everyone's sideboard. Fathom Feeder, a card we saw in the Bring Delight decks as well, but kind of gets just more traction in a deck like this.
Yeah, if it's left unchecked, you can't lose against control decks. I mean, if left unchecked against the green decks, you can't lose. It's the best top deck in the late game. You just play it, draw a card. It pulls targets away from Jace. It's just fantastic with Ojutai's Command, and it's only 2 mana. And there's been a couple games of playing against mono green or some other decks when they play Ugin, minus it to kill things, and he survives. It's just a colorless even comes into play sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I really, really, really like the card. It has a 2 of. It's terrible in multiples because they're redundant. They don't add to each other's benefits. So instead of having 1 on the board, I was easy just to leave the 1 in the main.
Okay, another interesting question coming up here. You have Languish as your sweeper of choice. You mentioned Awaken being very powerful. No Planar Outburst here.
Yeah, I had a Planar Outburst also, but it's just too slow. One more mana is just too slow. It's great against the green-white decks, but now there's so many. If you saw the match on camera earlier, I'm playing against Abzan. He threw 8 counterspells in his deck with the Shameful Stroke and Stubborn Denial, so you just can't rely on the 5-mana sweeper even against the green decks. So you just have to, just knuckle up and throw in those Languishes and hope that there's not a board full of Tassigurs and Rhinos, which is rare to have against you anyway because you're so good at the 1-for-1 game that the Languishes really just sweeps up what's left over.
All right, move on to the sideboard here. A card we've seen pick up in popularity now that these Eldrazi decks are running around, Infinite Obliteration.
Yeah.
You were kind of on this, just like you're championing a bunch of other rogue sideboard cards in the past.
I am a fringe sideboard man, and so the story behind Infinite Obliteration is a quick one. It's we're testing before the set comes out. Mono green Eldrazi is a thing. Our area is jam-packed with them. I'm going to give my friend Hugh a shout-out for being the innovator of the green Eldrazi deck. So he's beating my face in, and I can't stand losing to decks. I can't stand not having a chance against decks. So I jam my Despise in my deck, I put an Infinite Obliteration on the board, and don't lose to it anymore. It's just too good against that deck. With Narset and Jace also, you're able just to rip the cards out. Fathom Feeder also unbelievable against Gaia's Revenge in conjunction with Ojutai's Command. It's frustrating. You see it in the look on their face when they tap 7 and you just have that little 2-drop and they just can't do anything.
Yeah.
So Infinite Obliteration, auto win against Dragon Lord Ojutai decks, auto win against Mono Green Eldrazi, a must-have on the board, and I'm glad that my Fringe sideboard cards catch on like wildfire. That's the one I can take credit for. It's just, you cannot leave home without it because of how popular and how powerful Green Eldrazi is.
Okay, we've seen the other things. You got, another Narset in here, another command. Got some more counter magic, some more wraths, but also you have your Ojutai's command targets, Felidar Cub, and a Ration Cleric. So.
I wish there was a world where Mono Red was just extinct, of course, right? I mean, I wish it was gone, but since it's not, we have to dedicate 11 cards in the sideboard to it. Like I said, I refuse to lose, So I have 3 Ration Cleric, strictly just for the Mono Red matchup. I mean, there are some black-red Fringe aggro decks, some green-red, landfall decks. They're all, in my mind, they're all mono-red.
Sure.
And you need a Ration Cleric in the board, but once you bring all of them in the 4 Ojutai's Commands, in the Ultimate Price, and all the cheap stuff in the 4 languages, mono-red just gets hammered. And it is just haymaker after haymaker for the cost of 2 mana per. And then you bring in Tassiger also for that matchup. You bring in Negates to protect your cards, and then they just can't really win because the only cards you care about are the Target's Commands, the Become Immense, and the big, uppercuts that they have.
All right, well, you're 4-1 with this deck so far. Esper looks great in the hands of the professor himself. Shaheen, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
Always a
Stay
pleasure.
tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Philadelphia.